Hey guys, it's Novell J. Lee at the BUZZCast here at Buzzworthy Radio. I recently sat down and talked with J. Eddie Peck, who recently returned to the role of Cole Howard on CBS Daytime's The Young and the Restless after a 24-year absence. He also debuted on the show 30 years ago in February of 1993. So we got to talk to a little about his return to the show and the storyline that's happening right now. I mean, this is insane to me that we're playing this storyline out, but it was a welcome surprise. And all the actors involved are firing on all cylinders. We talked about his previous time at YNR, plus his time in All My Children, Dallas, Days of Our Lives, plus a lot more in this sit-down interview with J. Eddie Peck. Check it out. How are you, sir?
Hey, Novell. I'm doing well, but congratulations on 17 years. That's just amazing. You are a pioneer, obviously, into this medium and covering soaps and things. And I just love it. We need people like you to help keep this awesome medium going. And I'm so honored to be back and a part of it for however long I'm here.
I love this medium since I probably could walk and talk. I mean, this has been a part of my life since I was 5, and I have to thank my parents, my grandparents who watched these shows as me as a little kid growing up, and it's been on my screen forever. And I literally could tell people I knew who Victor and Nikki were as a couple, even though when I started watching, they weren't a couple at the time. So
Yeah.
it's me knowing the history when I didn't really think I would know the history. And I'm able to spit out all of these facts from the show. And it's absolutely insane. And
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. People like yourself and others that I've met that I've said, these folks, these wonderful fans and longtime audience, they oftentimes know the history of these characters better than we do, better than us actors who play them. Uh, I'm sometimes surprised that I talk to my fellow actors how they don't necessarily recall certain things that they did maybe 25 or 30 years ago. And then there's some scenes they can still recite the lines to you. But I'm always impressed with how many people really know more about the show. They could write the show's Bible, better than most who are actually playing the roles.
that's so funny. That's so true too. And especially with people reciting the lines aspect of it, because I even sit here myself and people on Twitter, on Facebook, they're posting all these classic scenes, and I remember watching it. All of a sudden, I catch myself saying the line. I'm going, I can't believe I remember that, and it's been
Yeah,
years ago. But
yeah,
it's still in our brains because they're such iconic moments. You can't really forget them. And
true.
one of the things that I have to say is I didn't even think about this until right before we hopped on the line. Not just the fact that it's been 24 years since we last saw
Exactly.
as Cole,
Exactly 24 years to the month.
but I thought that too. That was the first part of it. I was like, wow, I think it's literally 24 years to the day we last saw him. But then I also went, it's 30 years since you first premiered on the show because you premiered in 1993.
Yes, that's right. Beginning of 93. I think I was cast at the end of 92, started beginning of 93, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
believe it's been. I said that I was like, it's been 30 years since he first
Yeah.
came on the scene. It's
Yeah.
insane to me
Yeah.
that
Right.
as soon as I sat back and thought about it, I was like, wow, I did not even put that together until I said it's been 24 years. But then it's been 30 years
Yeah.
since he first aired. And
Yes.
what was it like for you to come back into the role of
Actually, yeah, it would be. Yeah. It's over 30 years. Yeah, it's over
yeah,
30 years. It'll be 31 years, I think, the end of January.
I was gonna say, I think you started
Mhm.
February 93. Like, well,
Yeah.
you first aired in February 93, I should say.
That's right. First air. That's right. I first aired in February, beginning of February 93. Yeah. So I started right after the New Year's when I started. Yeah.
My gosh. What
Amazing.
what was it like for you to come back to this role after being away for 24 years? Was it easy to fall back into that? I mean, listen, Cole went to Oxford for this time amount of time, but and now he's back and now he's back home where he belongs, is what I said to a lot
Yeah.
of people. He's back home where he should be. But
Yeah.
what was it like to slip back into that? Was it easy to fall back
Honestly,
into that rhythm?
when you play a role for almost 7 years, it becomes, I just recall so much of Cole's history,
Hmm.
right down to special scenes, special moments, and things that have stuck with me over the years. And honestly, I just almost felt like I was just revisiting another part of my own life. I really haven't felt a disconnect. Um, I've continued to watch the show when time permits. I watched the show over the years, and I just can't tell you how happy that I have been to see the show thrive and continue to go on, and just celebrating the cast that was there back when I was there, and then all the new wonderful cast that has joined the show since. And for me, just knowing that I can, go home and, if you will, on my TV and be able to dial up the show late one night if I want to see what's going on,
Yeah.
and I've missed it so much. I've missed more so than just being an actor on the show. I think Cole, I've missed. There's something special, especially when the holiday seasons come around. And we see right now that when you are playing a character on a show, and not only are you working with people at a special time of the year or during the holiday season, and you're on set and you're talking and you have all of that, but the characters are going through those. They decorate these sets so beautiful and things. It's almost like having a double holiday season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hasn't really been difficult. I think maybe one of the more difficult things for me is that I do live outside of LA, and when I show up to work, I show up about 5:40 in the morning. So I got to get up pretty early, and I'm usually up late running lines. So generally, when I'm working, I'm not getting a lot of sleep, and I think that's really kind of affecting what I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do now is really try to manage my time off better than I am, so that I can acclimate to that early call. Because sometimes I'm there at that time, and maybe I have scenes in the morning, but hey, I might have scenes at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. So I'm actually there, for over 12 hours.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been the hardest thing. It hasn't been, getting back into the mindset of Cole or remembering where he is and where he came from.
Hmm.
And, for these last 24 years, I've filled in the blanks as to what I thought logically would have been Cole's life and his path. And I've always had a sense and a feeling for that. I've always, even before I was invited back, I've always, thought over the years, yeah, kind of where would Cole be now? I've thought about it at times, as to where that character would be in his life and things. And so I have filled in all of those blanks. It all is very rich and real, and until they give me something different, then I'll play out what seems like the reality for the character.
It's interesting you say about how you think about certain things of what Cole would have been doing since his time away from Genoa City. And I think that even us as fans who have watched for so long and know Cole's history, we tend to also sit on the sidelines and go, "Where's Cole? What is he doing right now? What do you think he's doing right now when he's over in Oxford? Or did he leave Oxford and went somewhere else, or did he something's going on?" So it's interesting to hear you yourself as an actor also thinks about that when it comes to the character that you played for almost 7 years, 6 7 years, 6 years, and I think that's so cool to know that that character really resonates with you after all this time. I think that's really, really awesome. And
Yes, yeah.
and
I've played other.
the fans
Oh,
itself,
go ahead. Yeah.
and the fans itself, just to add on to that, the fans itself, when it was announced that you were coming back to the show, it's just a tremendous outpour of support because I obviously I've mentioned this to you numerous times in our passings how much I would love to see Cole back on the canvas somehow, and if the story was there to bring you back, definitely, that was one of our conversations. And the fact that once it was announced and you were coming, just seeing everybody screaming for joy that you were returning back to the show, I thought that was amazing just to see that there's still the love there for Cole Howard. And
Well, thank you, Novell. I it's been really amazing to me that being gone for this length of time, that I would get the reception that I have. I got invited to a Blast from the Past event back on August 4th, which was one day before the Young and the Restless I guess nowadays, biannual fan event.
Yes,
And
yes.
we decided to do a blast from the past where they invited back former cast members from B&B and Y&R.
Hmm.
And I told my wife, I'm like, gosh, I got invited to this. I'd really love to go. I said, I would enjoy seeing the fans so much and just, I would really love that. I said, but you know what? I don't really know if I should go. I said, it's been 24 years. I said, no one may even remember who I am, or maybe those people don't watch the show anymore.
Hmm.
I was really and truly concerned about being embarrassed and humiliated, that no one would know who I was. And Novell, let me tell you, it was just the opposite. I was absolutely floored when I got the reception, when they introduced my name and I walked out into the stage. I was floored. I was absolutely surprised at that reception, and that so many people still remembered Cole and gave me such a warm reception. I ended up signing autographs that night for 5 hours and 45 minutes. And I just loved every minute of it. I truly did. I got on and told my wife, let me tell you something. I said, I had more fun than I think anybody in that entire room had that night, not just the actors, but the fans as well, because I just enjoyed it so much. I really, really miss that interaction with the fans. I'm one that's I've always loved it. I've always loved it. I just remember my mom was a fan of daytime television, and I just remember how much it meant to my mother when I saw in person when she was able to meet the cast, at Y&R. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is just so touched by it. She was a fan of the show for years.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I know how much it means. When I was a boy, living in the South and then later in Southern Missouri, you just don't meet a lot of celebrities. But I actually had the opportunity to meet a couple too when I was a kid. And later on, I did a personal appearance at an event in Hollywood in my first series back in 1985. And I did it with actor Cesar Romero. And Cesar and I were literally on stage
Wow.
standing together, and we were answering questions. And I literally turned to him and I said, Cesar, you signed an autograph for me when I was 3 years old in Miami Beach on the beach, and you took pictures with me. And I've held those pictures my entire life. And I was able to thank him for being so gracious. I said, I got to brag all my life that I actually met someone famous. And I remember as a kid, Novell, there was something about that that validated me. There was something that was so special. When I was a boy, my childhood hero was Mickey Mantle, the baseball player.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Mickey Mantle, as a boy. And I remember, man, none of my friends got to meet Mickey Mantle. It was a really, well, some did. Some did later on because he actually was from my area where I grew up. But it just touched my life so much that I never forgot that the power that anyone has when they have the microphone or they have the camera or they have the tube, that power can touch a lot of people's lives and brighten their day. And that's a wonderful, wonderful gift to be able to give back. And daytime gave me that. And I've always treasured that as one of the most special things about this medium, is our connection with the fans. And truly, I've enjoyed it probably more than they have. It's really, really been nice.
It's the loyalty that us soap fans have it's bar none. I mean, honestly, this sense of escapism that we get to have every single day, 5 days a week, and get to see these characters on our screens play out these stories, these fantastic stories. It's just, as you said, it's just such a thrill for us and a life for us to be able to do that. And I there's a lot of cold memories that I do have that stick out in my head. And it was just, for me, when I heard the name of you coming back, I was going like, man, oh man, this is literally one of my favorite characters coming back to the show. I was so excited.
Thank you,
And
Neville.
yeah, I loved
Cool.
Cole. I loved the start of Cole. I loved the character of Cole for as
Thank you
the
so
time
much.
passed. And the one thing I said to myself is that, wow, I don't think Cole really liked to wear shirts. And I really don't think he really liked to wear shirts, because all he would wear were, majority of the time, if he was wearing a shirt, it was not often, but majority of the time it was a vest. And it was nothing underneath.
It's true. And it's weird. It's weird. I always lived on ranches back then. And I've been just a lifelong outdoors person, sun worshiper. I've been a lifelong cyclist. And so, I was always, every day I had off, man, I was building my ranch, building on my ranches. And I always had a shirt off. And even when I would go out and do personal appearances, and it was summertime, it was really hot, sometimes I just wear a vest. I wear a vest, with my Indian jewelry. That was it.
Yeah.
And because that was the 90s, you could get away with that with the 90s. But yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm weird. I'm
It was
weird.
not, and it wasn't in a dig. It was just, I think this was just Cole's style. But then,
No, brother, I don't take it as a dig at all.
not a dig. I was going like, this was just Cole's style. But then I was like, no, that's more J. Eddie style.
Yeah,
That was not, that's not even Cole anymore. It was just now frequent. And I was going, yeah, this is his personal clothing now. So there was that. But that, I thought that
you know
was
what,
great.
Lavelle, I will tell you, I have noticed, because I haven't dropped in a lot, but I've dropped in a little bit to kind of see what some of the comments are, regarding Cole and my return and J. Eddie's return kind of thing. And I've noticed a couple of people have mentioned the fact that I do look quite thin, and that is true. I am thinner than I used to be, but the reason why I'm thinner is because I'm a big time cardio guy. I work out a lot, and lo and behold, underneath like this clothing and stuff that you see me wear, I'm actually a guy who's in better shape than the Cole that you remember from the old days. I'm probably in better shape. So yeah, I'm ready, man. If I got that call, people would be surprised at how an old man has kept himself in shape, because it's a big part of my life to exercise. I have two sons that are athletes, and they would not let their dad slip one bit. They would be on me.
I believe it.
So they're always like, challenging me and whatnot. And that's the great thing about having two adult sons that are best friends, and then we're all so close together. And but yeah, man, that's okay. That's okay. I remember when I first started daytime, I was a little, I don't want to take my shirt off. I don't want to be that guy. And then I realized, no, this is daytime TV. That's actually, that guy is a great guy to be. Let's have fun, man.
You look fantastic. I honestly, no lie at all. You look great. And I found out, I didn't know this, and I want to find out if this is actually true. Were you actually on The Young and the Restless before you were Cole?
Oh, that was, yes, in answer to your question, I was. I had a small reoccurring on The Young and the Restless before I was Cole Howard. And that was back, I want to say that it was around October or November of 1983. So that would put us back there a ways,
Yeah.
And but yeah, I never mentioned that ever before, because I always wondered, gee, I wonder if the show ever knew that I was actually here before they did. And I don't know why. I just never mentioned it. I thought that could turn out to be a negative or whatever. I never talked about it, never mentioned it. And then I think I mentioned it maybe once or twice ever that I ever mentioned that I was there. And maybe that's where you heard it. Maybe the cat's out of the bag. But another kind of crazy thing is that same thing too. I played a character named Eric, who was in Gene's Lonely Hearts Club with Marlena, and was it Gene? Forgive me. On Days of Our Lives, I played a recurring character on that show before I was Hawk Hawkins.
Wow. So you even,
and I never really talked about that either, Yeah, I never really talked. I mean, when I went before Hawk, I was like, do they know? Yeah, I think Dorsella knows that I used to.
I was like, I heard it and I was going, really? I did not. There was no way I knew that at all. So I thought that was really cool, because there was at one point, fun trivia fact for all of you guys that don't know this either, is that I was watching one of the an old YNR episode. It was from 1986, and there was a scene where Tracy Bregman's character Lauren Fenmore was on a plane, and I can't remember the actor's name. He played Sean. So there was a scene, and the stewardess who came over to make sure they were okay, take whatever they wanted to order. It was a familiar face, and I looked it up, and sure enough, I was right. That familiar face was Sandra Nelson, who was the
Oh,
Restless
yes, of
on the
course.
show.
Yeah.
She was on the Restless as a stewardess in 1986. So I was
Yes.
like, wow. So,
You know, it's funny because when you were telling that story, I don't know why, and I'm thinking, I wonder if it was Michelle Stafford. But same character, different actor. But
same character, different.
yeah, it's funny how that all works.
Yeah. I thought
Yeah.
that was so cool when I heard that little factoid, So I was like, let me ask it because I don't know if it's true, but maybe it is. And
Yeah,
it is. But the other factoid I thought that was very interesting to note was that one, how did I can't believe I never knew you were on two primetime shows that were big hits in the 80s, Dallas and Dynasty, and you were also on it at the same time, which was completely unheard of at the time.
Yeah,
Completely unheard of.
obviously, with the shows being very competitive with one another,
They're on different networks.
that was unheard of. And I was doing a film. I don't know what year it was, 1988. Yeah, I was doing a film in New Mexico and Texas the whole summer of 1988. And back in June, before they went on hiatus, they were trying to bring me in for a new role on Dynasty. And I was working every day on the film, and I just could not get away. And Aaron Spelling said, hey, I'm going to wait for that kid. I like him. I'm going to wait. He'd used me before. And they waited for me and literally brought me in on a Saturday. And I started on the Monday. So they started back to work on Dynasty before they started Dallas then. I think maybe a week or so they started early. So I'm on Dynasty, and I have like a 7-show deal, 7 or 8 show commitment to them.
I was going to say,
and whenever that came, and the reason why they didn't go further was because the show wasn't officially picked up for a full season yet. So they didn't want to get into, me being a newbie, on the show, get into a long-term contract. But we know we're going to need him for whatever it was, 7 or 8 episodes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And what happened was, whenever that show ended, or my filming on that particular episode ended, I think the show had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday left, and starting a new episode on Monday. So at the end of my filming on Tuesday, my agent happened to call the show, spoke to David Paulson, who was the executive producer of the show at that time. He had come from Dallas and just moved to that was his first season over at Dynasty.
Yeah.
And my agent said, hey, Dave, just kind of letting you know, it's just JD Peck's last day, about agreement that we had, and just letting you know, the kid is, the kid's available to go out and get another job. And Dave goes, oh, no, we're here. He's written in for next week's episode. Here he's coming back. We're bringing him back. He's written in. He said, but we don't have a deal on it yet. And he says, well, we're getting into that to the end of the week. In the meantime, we're just not going to do anything now. Or wait and cash in your call with you. Anyway, they kind of stalled us for 2 days. And my agent told me that story. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, so you got 2 days to find a job. I said, what do you mean? He says, no, you got 2 days to find it. We're going to place. He says, they're hiring a new role in Dallas. They're looking for a guy. And he said, they're almost, they're winding it down, He said, but I want to see if I can get you straight into Lenny Katzman, the producer, to read for Lenny. So sure enough, they got me straight in the very next day, which was a Wednesday. I got a call back again, and Lenny hired me. And it was said right on my resume that I had, whatever it was, 7 or 8 episodes of Dynasty I'd already filmed. And I was going to air, I think I was going to air like maybe that next week, or maybe I'd aired the night before that night. I either was just airing or I was just going to air. But they never looked at my resume and said, currently filming on Dynasty. So because I had a break in that agreement, my agent, the next thing I know, my agent's like, no, you have to go in, you have to audition, and don't worry, you work both shows, it's all fine. And they hired me, and I started that Monday on Dallas, not Dynasty. So Dynasty had to, anyway, it was all my agent's doing. I'm just a dumb kid just saying, go here, go there, read this, do that. And so what ended up happening was I ended up working on both shows. Dallas had first position on me, and I was, working, and I was busy, so I wasn't even really able to go back to Dynasty until the very end of the season to wrap up that story. And yeah, I was airing on both shows at the same time with the front burner storyline. And the trades and the rag magazines and things all had a lot of fun with it. And for me, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. Just, I really enjoyed Dynasty, but I have to say Dallas was one of the funnest roles that I'd ever played. I played a guy who he actually, that when they first started this role, he was supposed to be an international drug dealer. And I went to Lenny Katzman at the end of my very first episode, and I said, Lenny, and I'm somewhat naive, I guess. I had such a nice relationship with him thus far. And I said, Lenny, what if we make him an addict, not just a dealer? And he said, we're going to write it in immediately. We're going to make you an addict. And when they made me an addict, a cocaine addict, as an actor, that gave me a lot to play.
Oh, it gave you so many more layers.
This was a very desperate, troubled young man. And he had to work everyone in his life, everybody. He grifted and worked for that habit. And as an actor, we like to play those roles, that have that depth, that pain, that desperation. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to play as an actor, and I thoroughly enjoyed that role so much because, yes, he was volatile, and yes, he was nasty and dark, but underneath all of that, was the pain this person felt inside, and I was really able to show that pain and that anguish, that struggle with addiction, that struggle with having to deceive everyone in his life that he loved, and even relationships. He had a love and a fancy for Sheree Wilson, who played April Stevens on the show and things. And it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and role.
That's awesome. Yeah. Unfortunately, you died on both of them, but
yeah, I did. It's funny. It's funny you said that because I got shot on both. They made damn sure this dude's done. And of course, it was the last season for both.
It was the last season. That's right.
I wrapped up the last season for both shows. But yeah, man, I got shot. Both. I didn't even think about that for a while. And both shows made damn sure that I took a bullet right in the heart.
They were like, "We're not having him live." So that was it.
We're gonna get, and that was the thing is I played, a villain in both shows.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I played a lot of these kind of those what I call glamour heavies, pretty boys being tough and nasty, and I loved it. I loved that, man. It was very, 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 very far different than me. Everybody knew me. I was and have always been such a straight-laced person, and for me to play, characters with substance abuse and things like that, it's very, very far different from who I am.
Listen, I'm sure you got a lot of flack. I might have been one of those people who may or may not have said certain words when you were Hawk because you came between Jack and Jennifer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. On day one.
I may or may not have participated in the hatred of Hawk because he came between Jack and Jennifer.
Man, I love that role. Hawk came in on the day they got married.
Yes,
he set
did.
his sights on Jennifer, and he was a grifter. And he set his sights on her and Jack and was going to work them. And obviously he did. But again, as an actor, I loved it because this is a character, a guy that truly fell in love with her. She was the purest, most beautiful thing he had ever known and witnessed in his life, and she made Hawk want to be a better man. What greater thing to play as an actor? When you can play someone who's been so deceitful and so conniving and so dark and so troubled, and all of that comes from that place of pain in that character's life, and yet he sees something that makes him want to turn his life around. And redemption, and that's, we, as actors, we love those roles. Those are wonderful roles to play.
It was for me when I watched it. Obviously, if an actor is making you feel some type of way that you hate him, you're doing the part justice. And I
Yeah.
thought, but then I also had the biases like this J.D. Peck. I can't really hate him. There was also that too.
I played a lot of those characters, that were hateable,
That were hateable, but I also
they were. I went through a number of years streak where I played a lot of, I don't know why. I would just, with this face. I mean, it's not so sweet anymore, but I had a baby face. Maybe that's why it worked for the characters. I looked a little non-threatening, and then I would turn out to be your worst nightmare. So, I love that, man. I'm glad I had a chance to do that, because I think after that, got into Cole Howard and Jake Martin, obviously, to where I played a lot of good guys. A lot of guys that were maybe a little bit closer to who I was as a person. But yeah, man, I love the villainous. I really love playing the heavy.
It definitely was
all good, man. It's all good.
It was definitely fun to watch. While I was hate watching, it was fun to watch because it was you and what you were able to bring to Hawk and that character. And I did get to see the final scenes of the show that you were on, the confrontation with Jennifer, played by Melissa Reeves, and how everything all came about with all of Hawk's lies and how he read her diary and all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool to see, especially since I never really got to see it in real time at the time. When I was able to get my hands on it, which I would say maybe about 5-6 years ago, and watching that whole storyline come into play and into the climax, I thought it was really I was shocked because I did not know you were on Days of Our Lives at the time. But then when I was watching it, I just got invested, and then I wanted to see more of it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm literally hate watching Cole Howard. And it was a lot of fun to watch that and just see you play that sort of, because again, as you just said, it's so different from Cole and then Jake Martin when he went to All My Children.
Yes.
And of course, I'm sitting there in my All My Children feels because you reunited with Amelia Hindley on Y&R right now as Victoria, because for my friends know, Amelia was on All My Children as Mia Saunders, and Jake Martin and Mia they also had a relationship on the show until Jake cheated on her. But until Jake cheated on her.
That was kind of, we hadn't seen that side to Jake. I think we were all a little surprised that Jake was capable of such a thing, And I don't know. Do you recall how Jake was discovered cheating? Do you recall?
So I did not read Rag. I wasn't really keeping up with the Rags at the time on purpose because I did not want to read spoilers or anything. So everything I was watching at the time literally was a shock to my face that I was going when I saw that Mia caught Jake and the nurse in the closet.
That's right. You said it, not me. That's how we discovered that he was a dirty dog. I actually think it's hilarious how they chose to, it's going to have to be something significant. It's got to be big because a lot of people like Jake, and Jake's a really good guy, so it's got to be big. You know what I mean? It can't be, hey, I heard, or cheating, not having cocktails in the corner of a restaurant. No, it's at work. And I think it might have even, I don't know if me and I were celebrating our anniversary party, but we were celebrating something.
We were celebrating something because I know Ollie just remembered
Jake slips away.
To find you.
So. He slips away like with a girl, from the hospital in the broom closet, in his boxers, and I think she's in lingerie.
She's in lingerie.
What nurse wears the lingerie when she comes to save lives? I don't know, but anyway, I thought, man, if you want to show another side to Jake, that's the way you do it.
That's how you do it, and that's what happened. And I literally just
laughed at that ever since, man.
I saw the scene and I was hilarious. Like, "What just happened?" And I just my jaw was on the floor like Wile E. Coyote.
That's not even the Jake I knew. I didn't even know the poor guy had it in him. But
I didn't think he had it in him either. But like, I would say maybe in the Hawk sense more so than the Cole sense. In the Hawk sense with Jake, while he wasn't a grifter, obviously he was a doctor, but I think in the Hawk sense with Jake in the beginning, he knew what he wanted, and that was Greenlee. So this was before Mia. He wanted Greenlee, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was for me. He knew what he wanted. I know there was a lot of Greenlee and Leo fans. I was one of them,
Mhm.
but I also did
Mhm.
like Jake and Greenlee if that were to happen.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the ones where I was going, I wasn't against it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that coming into play and seeing how he was inserting himself into that relationship. But then it shifted to the Mia relationship, which I also
Yes.
liked. Um,
Yeah.
and then it just went in a whole different direction to where we just saw Jake actually have this kind of capability in him. And I was,
Yeah.
oh my God, you now are about to develop this character in such a different way, and now he's leaving. I think that was
Yeah.
literally almost, I think that was your last episode. And
Yeah. I think it might have been a parting episode, you know, yeah, at that time. Yeah, I too was a fan of Leo and Greenlee, and I love them as a couple. I thought that Greenlee brought something out in Jake that I really liked. She really challenged Jake to kind of come out of his shell and step up, and I really liked. Uh, I liked the banter. I liked the almost opposites attract. I had a very, very different energy, or Jake had a very different energy than Leo did. And he had a level of maturity, or maybe I hate to use the word maturity, but he was older than Leo and maybe a little more focused in his professional life and things of that nature, and a different background, totally different upbringing, if you will.
oh, of
And
course.
so I thought that was a really interesting triangle. I love those two as a couple. And I thought there was a whole nother side to Greenlee, a whole nother side to Jake and Greenlee, that was two people that had some sort of undeniable chemistry, and they're working their way. They're doing their thing. And it was cool. I thought the way in which they wrote it and it developed was logical. But yeah, I had a wonderful experience on that show. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I know my mother, my real life mother, had a stroke while I was working on the show, and my father was quite a bit older than my mother.
Mhm.
Neither one of my parents are still alive, but my mom had a stroke and was living all the way out here on the West Coast, and really didn't have anyone where they were. The other kids in the family were a long way away, and my dad really didn't have anyone to take care of my mom. And I was so afraid I'm going to be sitting in New York and get that call that my mother's no longer with us. Well, as a matter of fact, she actually never came home from the hospital. She spent 18 months and never came home, back home. She never made it back home. But I actually had gone into the network and asked to leave the show at that time, because I really had this fear of being in New York and no one there to take care of my mother. My father was challenged, with all that responsibility of a stroke patient. But as I said, it just turned out that she never even made it home. She went to about 11 different facilities, but eventually I was able to leave and to go back to LA. And so glad I did. I hated to leave the show, and I hated to leave it in a way in which I'm asking to leave.
Yeah.
But the thing was, for me, is I've never regretted, Novell, of spending that time with my mom. I put all of my energy into being by my mom's bedside and taking care of her and taking care of my father at that time. And I had a really, really close 17 months, with my parents, and forever grateful for that.
It's true what they say. Family is always coming first, and I completely believe that with my whole heart, and I agree that with every fiber.
Well, it's hard. It's hard because it's hard, as an actor, for any actor, to kind of take their eye off their career for a long period of time. And I did. I really did, man. And it didn't help my career by any means. I basically kind of put everything on hold for 17 months. And it definitely kind of killed the momentum, that I had. And then I was shifting my gears towards really trying to develop my production company. That was really my real goal at that particular time, was to branch out a little bit, just to kind of do some other things. And you can't do that for very long. When you're an actor, you have to stay in it, focused. Your representatives have to know that that's what you want to do. You know,
Yeah.
and I was showing, examples of me doing a lot of other things on the side, that I was really, really interested in doing. After working 13 years in daytime, I loved it, but I was really wanting to do other things as well,
Yeah.
and some people are a lot better at spreading that focus out maybe than what I was. Yeah, I commend all those who've been able to maintain their daytime role and the demand of a role, and still go out and do plays, and still go out and write projects, maybe produce projects, maybe direct, or whatever it is. I commend those folks. They're they're really good at wearing a lot of hats, probably a lot better than I ever was.
I I definitely have to commend you for everything, not just of what you bring to the table personally, but also professionally. Um, I still think one of my all-time favorite Cole moments on the show. Okay. I don't know why this is my favorite moment, but it really is. It really is. It's the episode which I think, oh my gosh, my math is plaguing me right now. 26 years almost to the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 26 years ago. And it was the episode when Victoria, who was then played by Heather Tom at the time, walked in and caught Ashley and Cole
Oh,
having sex.
absolutely. I remember that very well. I think we only had one of those incidents, but it was at a hotel.
It was
He
at a
had met
hotel.
Ashley for an afternoon tryst. And yes, I never will forget the look on Heather's face. It was not a good one.
No, it was not.
It was not. And I think when I did that, I was working with Sherry Shattuck,
Yes.
wonderful Sherry Shattuck, at that time, wonderful actress. And I was working with Sherry, and yeah, I remember that. That was quite a moment. That was quite a moment. Yeah, I think that's the thing, when we play these roles and things, we oftentimes get so attached to them, as I mentioned before, even when we're playing someone that is dastardly, or someone who hurts others, or
Yeah.
they're volatile or whatever. Um, when we play a character, as I did Cole, really and truly, he was a guy that I guess because I'd had so many years of playing heavies and villains, I had
Hmm.
so many of those roles in a row that when I came into daytime, I said, I want to go to daytime and I want to play a genuine good guy. I
Hmm.
want to play a guy that maybe has a lot of qualities that I aspire to have as a person. And I tell you, Annabelle, I think fatherhood changed maybe affected my view on wanting to play a long term. Now, hey, it's a lot more fun to play a villain. It's a lot more fun to play that guy.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it was just fatherhood. Maybe it's just, again, that I had such a long run of playing villains that I wanted to play a really, really good guy. And, there were moments, throughout Cole's run, that he was, I mean, he was a real person, and he, made some mistakes and made some decisions and things. And maybe that was one of them, I mean, that's what makes it daytime TV, is that once we think that we really know and trust the heart of a character, all of a sudden they show us something else, whether it's in desperation, whether it's a calculating moment, whether it's a vulnerable moment. They show us something different, and hopefully that audience is along for the ride, and or that viewer is along for the ride. And yeah, that was one of those moments when I wasn't so proud of Cole.
Yeah, I think for me it was the shock of the fact that that happened, because I didn't think that was the route the show was going to go, because they were teasing Cole and Nina for so long, and I
Yes.
thought that's where we were going with this, and then
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
pivots and it went to this with Cole and Ashley, and I was just like, oh, that's different. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it definitely was some worthy scenes in that time. I loved every bit of it, because I remember watching that episode because I knew I was home, because it was around almost around the holiday season. So I know I was on winter break, and watching it, I was just going, huh,
Yeah,
that's not what I expected. So,
yeah, that's right.
but it was still, again, to your point, it was definitely something in Cole that we probably never would have expected. Hell, I never would have expected Cole to punch Victor, but he punched Victor. But
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely one of those moments that I've never forgotten. Yeah, I have to say, I'm sure there are scenes and things that I'm sure there are because people have mentioned things to me and like, oh, I don't recall that. Yeah, but for the most part, I really feel like I remember so much. You know, I guess I've always believed that I had somewhat of a photographic memory, but I can tell you exactly what the room looked like that I was in the hotel with Ashley whenever Victoria walked in. I could tell you just what it all. I could tell you how we blocked the scene and how it unfolded. I still remember that. But yeah, that moment in which I punched Victor was a rare moment. You know, very rare moment. It's rare that someone takes a swing at Victor. Usually doesn't end up well, you know, on the other side. But you mentioned something, and first of all, I commend you on your tremendous memory. Yeah, we toyed with Nina so much, you know, at that time. And I really enjoyed working with Trish a great
yeah,
deal. You know, she's just such an incredibly giving actress, and she has such a wonderful quality and vulnerability and something to her.
mhm,
Trish just sucked me right in as an actor. I mean, all of these, I'm so fortunate that I've worked with such tremendous people as well as tremendous actors. But yeah, there was something about Trish. I just really loved working with her. And I was really hoping that Cole and Nina would have the chance to do more than they did, you know, at that time.
agreed.
And
Yeah.
she's wonderful. She's just wonderful. I ran into her at the 50th, and as soon as I talked to her right away, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's still that incredibly special person who just draws your heart right in. She
Oh
just
my gosh,
she
yeah.
exudes a wonderful warmth in the heart. You know, Beth Maitland that has the same thing. Beth is just these. There's a reason why, you know, these women have had such long, wonderful careers, and they can't deny them coming back, is because they have this ability to connect with people and
Yeah,
to resonate with an audience, you know, on a level that's very special. And they have that, and they, you know, I see it, and you see it in these people when you meet them and talk with them in person. They're very special people.
I completely, of all people, I would agree.
Yeah.
Because, getting to see them in person, I met Trisha for the first time in person at the 50th. I've had her on my show. Um,
Oh, yeah.
we've talked, but I hadn't met her in person at the time until this past March. And I just have to tell you, when I was just right there in the room with her, she was just fiery, but in such the best way possible.
Yes.
I just love her outlook, and she's just such a wonderful person. Beth Maitland, like
Yeah.
I said, she really is Tracy Abbott. Like, she's literally that moral compass, even in real life.
Yes.
I think it's absolutely amazing, and
I agree.
these
I agree.
these
Yeah.
cast members, these people who've been a part of the show for so many years, there's just something about them, as to your
It is.
correct,
It is.
that
They're
this is why we
they're
keep coming
just
back to watch.
yeah, it is, and they're just as real. You know, that's why, you know, these viewers, they obviously just get so attached to these characters. You know, because it's a compelling story, and I mean, my gosh, I'm an actor on the show. I love the show and still watch the show. I
Yeah.
watch the others when I can as well. You know, and you know, I've seen work on B&B, you know, from some of the actors. I'm like, man, I got to send them a note. You know, I mean, it's just really, I mean, it's so good that my wife, who doesn't watch the show, to be really honest, my wife's, you know, a busy person and she's always got things going on, and she doesn't watch the shows. But I've literally, you got to, I got to show you something. I caught this on B&B last night when I was thumbing around. You got to watch this. And it's the same way with Y&R now. You know,
Yeah.
I see, the work that Eileen has done in the air shows this week is Emmy worthy. She's just phenomenal. I watch her. Oh my gosh, she's so good. And not only that, everybody else in the story, with her, all the actors on the show. I'm so impressed with this cast. They're just stellar. We have an awesome, awesome cast, and they're just so far and above me that I really want to up my game. So I'm worthy of just sharing the stage with this awesome cast. They're really tremendous.
I have to ask, working with Colleen Zenk in this story as Jordan, this is the fanatic in me. My first love was As the World Turns. That was the first show I got into before I got the whole CBS Daytime lineup. It was that show that really helped me get into the rest of the shows. Network. And I loved her as Barbara Ryan. And when she was going to be on the show, and you did get to have scenes with her that had aired, what was it like just being there working alongside of her? Because she's just a freaking powerhouse.
It's just great to work with her, and just, I'm a huge fan, just a huge fan of hers. And I'm so happy that she's getting this tremendous, response. People have loved her, since literally the late 70s. If I can say, I think maybe she started maybe in the late 70s.
Yeah, 78.
So it was in 78. Yeah, there you go. And I remember, as a kid before I even became an actor, I would watch soaps when I was in college. That was kind of the thing we did back then. And I just remember I just was a huge fan of hers, and just anyway. So yeah, it's kind of cool,
I love it. I'm so happy for you being back here on the show and working with these great guys again. And I can't wait to see what more is in store. We're going to keep watching. And it's just, this was great. This was fantastic. I'm so glad we made this happen. We got to talk. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be back in LA after it postponed for 6 months. 6 months. And getting the chance to celebrate daytime next week. It's fantastic.
I'm really excited for the Emmys. That's gonna be great. I'm going to see lots of old friends that I haven't seen in a while. I've stayed in touch, with a few folks over the years, thanks to Facebook and things. But for me, I go right back to saying it again. I'm probably having more fun than anybody in the room.
I'm looking forward to having a great time and seeing what's in store for their 50th, since it's their 50th annual. So that's going to be great as well, and getting the chance to be there with incredible talent and incredible writers and directors. I mean, you guys really, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be doing this pretty much. And I'm so thankful and honored to get to celebrate you guys next week. So I'm very happy. And thank you again for making this happen. Like I said, this was a long time coming, and the fact
thank you.
It finally worked out, and I'm very happy for that.
I hope that for the rest of that time I'm in here on this earth, that we have daytime television. We have these 4 shows continuing to run, and it is because of these viewers, and they have really enabled this industry to stay alive. And I just encourage all of you, if these stories resonate with you and your family, continue to support them, continue to be vocal in a positive way. I think they really listen to the positive things so much, and the negative things don't always do us a whole lot of good. I think in the most part, they really have to see that these stories, these characters, these performances, these actors are bringing you or resonating with you and making you want to tune in, the next day. So thank you for that, Abel. You, along with the others, are keeping it all going, and I'm honored to be able to come back and be a part of it.
I'm so glad that you're here, and we'll always welcome you back with open arms. We'll always do that for you, and you're welcome back on this show anytime. Absolutely.
Thanks, Abel. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
J. Eddie Peck, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, sir. Many thanks to J. Eddie Peck for stopping by the podcast and talking with me about his time at Y&R, as well as All My Children, Days of Our Lives, and all the other shows that he's been a part of. He's such a fantastic guy, and I was so happy that we got the chance to talk to him here. And as I mentioned, he's welcome back here anytime. But as always, you could keep getting the latest buzz with Buzzworthy Radio by logging on to our website at www.buzzworthyradiocast.com. You can follow us on X. I'm still having a hard time calling it that. Are you guys having an issue calling it X? Do we still call it Twitter? I don't even know anymore. But follow me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Buzzworthy Radio, and I'm on Instagram and Threads at BuzzNav. You can also like me on my Facebook page at Buzzworthy Radio. For now, I'm Novell J. Lee, signing off. Take care.